repeat myself if anybody joins, but we would like to record this so that anyone that couldn't make it at this time is able to see what we have to say and go back. So is everybody here okay with this being recorded?
I mean, I gotta look at my face all the time. If you don't mind looking at my face.
Of course not. I mean, if you really wanted to not have a visual recording, you could turn the camera off, but we have no problem.
Hold
We're
on.
happy to see you. Okay, so that's an aye. All right. Okay, so let's get going here. My name is Rachel Heberling, she, her. I'm the executive director of Frontline Arts, and we are here to answer some questions and talk about the updates to our 2023 Veteran Artist Residency application. This is our second year of it. So we have here to talk about it with us tonight Mike Stark, who's our studio director, and he really works pretty closely with the resident because Mike is all things studio, technical assistance, booking time, ordering supplies, print guru, becoming paper guru as well. So he's a big help with that. We have Lindsay Knipe, the executive assistant at the controls recording this session. You'll see her a lot at the building as well, and she handles all our communications and design. And we have Mark Oldland, who has been a participant in our Veteran Sunday workshops for several years now, and he was actually awarded the first veteran residency last year. So it's really amazing to have him on the call to help answer exactly how the experience was for him, both at Frontline and at Monson Arts. So what I'm gonna do real quick is put in the chat. Don't worry about clicking this right now, and we'll also put this in the recording YouTube link. But if you want to save it, we did do a video last year, and that we went into a lot of details, about an hour long. We even have a video of what it looks like inside our building so you can see the equipment and get a sense of our space. One update we do have, we're getting closer and closer to making the second floor accessible. That's just our gallery space with some offices, and it's only accessible by stairs right now. So just putting a heads up about that. We're finalizing a contractor finally after we got a grant. So yeah, you can check out that video to get a sense of the space and more detail that we had to say last year. But right now, I am going to screen share to show you the website and the form. And while I do that, I'm going to have Mike take the reins and talk about some of the updates that we have.
Hello there.
There it is. Sorry, I was grabbing all my tabs. Okay.
Okay. So the residency hasn't changed a whole lot since last year, but it is still the 52 Reasons to Love a Vet. It is sponsored by Ella and Ruin Babayette. And the main things that we have changed this year, if you scroll down to the application section, maybe slightly past the application section right there. Last year that the residency was from May 1st to, we had it all the way until the end of December, but we realized that Frontline is never open the last week of the year. We close down, and that's 1 week that all the staff actually takes off. So the residency can run between May 1st and December 22nd of 2023. Any variation of time in between there, you can put in your application, and if it's a good one, we can make it happen. Another big thing that we changed from last year to this year is last year we were open to the possibility of multiple residents, we decided that it's probably best to only select one applicant who is eligible for up to the entirety of the $4,000. So when you're applying, if you're picked, you have the opportunity to use all of that money. So you should try to budget accordingly and use it. And another big thing is that the residency this year is pretty much either entirely in person, meaning that you would come to Frontline Arts and work in the facility, or it would be entirely virtual in the sense that we would work together to complete a project, something like contract printing. In addition, some projects along the lines of that are the easiest and most feasible options to do virtually. But if you have an idea that you think we can accomplish virtually, we're still very much open to hearing your proposals. And the biggest thing is, we uploaded a sample budget this year. So last year, the biggest complaint for the application was we tried to give everybody sample options of how they could use their time and funds to create different, residencies customized for themselves at Frontline Arts. And we realized that was probably not as helpful as we hoped. So this year we got rid of all of those options, and this year we created a sample budget, and we filled in pretty much anything that we could think of that you might need to come to New Jersey. And some of these things might not apply to you, and that's fine. You can delete them, and we might have missed something that you need. That's fine. Please add it. The funds for this residency are pretty much no strings attached. As long as you're justifying how you're using them and it's, not something absolutely out of this world, there's a good chance that we're okay with it. Childcare is fine. Housing, great. Travel, awesome. So anything you need, you can include it in this template. We tried to fill in the cost of supplies currently at Frontline Arts. There is a chance that these prices will change during this year due to the cost of materials, but we'll probably honor the price, included in this at the time, just due to the current situation. Certain things like paper, that might fluctuate. We can't control outside costs of some of the supplies that you might put on it. So just plan accordingly that you might have to cover certain things if it goes beyond your budget. But yeah, so, and this year we're continuing to offer the Monson Arts Residency, which Mark can talk a little bit about when we get to that. But if anybody has any questions about the budget, please feel free to email us, and we'd be happy to help. If you're not sure about something, just ask.
Yeah, I know that was a big question last year. It's hard for us to put everything on earth that you could possibly come up with in the sample budget, and so to make sure you have an accurate application, if you have an idea you definitely don't see it on here, please just email us before you put the application in, and we can definitely tell you an estimate of what you're thinking about would cost. And I also want to clarify that the total expenses on that green line, they should be no more than $4,000. If you want to ask for less than, you can, but $4,000 is the maximum award amount. And then it's those red lines. That is, it's kind of a common way that grant applications work too. If you want to do something that definitely costs more than $4,000, but you're able to obtain funds from elsewhere, or you want to say that you're contributing something too, then that's where you would put that. But everything before in the green should add up to a max of $4,000. And what Mike said too about like childcare, housing, etc. Yes, those are eligible costs, but of course they have to have something to do with this residency. So we're just trying to think of like, we understand it's not easy to just like pull up and come over here to Jersey. You've got things going on in life that need to be covered in order for you to do that. So as long as it's related to coming out here, that's absolutely an eligible expense. So thank you, Mike, for sharing those details. I'm gonna take the budget off the screen for a minute. Before we get into any more details about the experience, do we have any questions about the application itself? Pretty straightforward. Okay, cool. Cool. So Mark, I thought it would be really neat if you could talk about your experience. So you did both Frontline Arts and Monson, and to clarify that, on the application form, there are dates. So you can see what the available dates are at Monson Arts, and as soon as, if you're selected as the awarded resident, we would have you get in touch with Monson right away in Maine to nail that down. So yeah, Mark did both, and if you'd like to talk about, highlights or even something you didn't like or something that you would suggest that the next resident do or we do, take it away.
Sure. Yes, I did both. And I think to start out explaining a little bit about both specific areas, it's important to understand the distinct differences between what's available at both locations. So Frontline Arts is a full-scale print shop. It has all the presses, pretty much just about every possibility in terms of what you can do with printmaking is available as an option there, with the exception of some very outlier stuff. I think lithography is like the one area that is not necessarily fully available there at the studio. But you can screen print, you can block print, all the presses are there. In addition to that, it's a full paper making facility as well. So you can also, for those that are not familiar with what typically is done at Frontline Arts, especially with the veterans programs and the veterans workshops on Sunday is, we have a practice of breaking down and transforming uniforms from our military experiences and making paper out of them. That is one of the typical standard practices. However, you can make paper from just about any material that is fabric, as long as it has some cotton base to it. And there's plenty of expertise in the building and facility to demonstrate and take you through that process. So that's Frontline Arts. Monson is a completely different experience. Monson is everything not printmaking, essentially, in the artistic field. It's basically what you get when you go to Monson Arts is you're provided free room and board. And when I say free room and board, it is top notch. It's a fully renovated housing. You stay in your own room. You probably share a house with like one other person, but you have your own room. It's a fully renovated house, beautiful houses. You're put up there. You're provided a full-scale studio tailored to your specific practice. So my specific expert or training coming into Frontline Arts is not as a printmaker, but as a painter. So I was provided one of their primary painting studios, and it's huge. And it's there. I think Rachel, if she chooses to share the screen and can pull up my website, I have some pictures of some of the facilities there. But what you'll usually get is some inquiry about your specific artist practice, and they will provide you with a studio that's suitable to your needs. So if it's a smaller studio space, if you do ceramics, they have fully, they have wheels, they have ceramic studio up there for you to use. So you can see here, this is the studio space that I was provided, and you can see it is pretty impressive, the full amount of space that you get. You can see there I'm talking about those specific pieces are made out of my Coast Guard uniform, and those were some pieces that I did specifically up there. In addition to that, when I say you get free room and board, it's a 5-scale farm-to-table restaurant. You get fed while you're up there. You get a $300 budget while you're for the general store, for pretty much all the food items, anything on top of the food you're already being fed, and you also get a $1,000 stipend. So that's what you get when you go up there, and you're up there for a month. So that's Monson Arts. Frontline Arts is just as spectacular because you have this incredible budget and pretty much free reign to do whatever, as long as it's within your artist practice, and typically, you know, anything related to the printmaking or paper making or a combination thereof. So for myself, I focus specifically on learning the screen printing process. I live very close to the studio, so I was fortunate enough to focus most of my budget on supplies, on training hand in hand with Mike to really get as good as possible as I could at learning the screen printing process. So you can see several of the screen prints that I worked on there. I focus a lot of my practice around, at least specifically what I was doing during this residency, the activity of jumping in puddles with my son. He and I share a relationship. We both identify as autistic. I have Asperger's, he's autistic, and we have a shared common relationship with the water. So that was my focus. So you can see a lot of the screen prints that I did that they have some element of water aspect or jumping in puddles. So that's what my focus is. And one other unique practice, and you can see there just in the little bit of corner there, you might be able to click on that one picture of the large print paper right up there, right above the creative process. You can see that large piece of paper. One of the unique things about the paper making that you can do at Frontline Arts is this is a 30 by 40 sheet of paper that we were able to make out of my Coast Guard uniform. Making paper that large is not something you can, even most paper making facilities are not capable of doing that. But Ron Erickson, who's really an expert at crafting these types of things, made the mold and decal, and we worked together and we made several sheets of this very large paper. So that's a very kind of brief summary of what I did throughout the year, both at Frontline and at Monson, and what my experiences were there. That's our beater that you make the paper with. So if you're into paper making, you know, certainly there's plenty of expertise in teaching you how to make the paper there. Or I presume if you are working from a distance, you can order paper to work on artistic practice, use a budget to do that. You can, as Mike said, from distance work at contract printing some of your existing artwork through that. So there's a lot of flexibility in how you utilize and what you can use that $4,000 budget for. It's a pretty, it advanced my work beyond belief. I went from being a pretty decent artist to having a full, well-rounded collection of some very specific series that really had a real good focus. So yeah, it was an incredible experience. So I'm happy to answer any questions specifically about it.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks so much for sharing. Yeah, Mark is an incredible artist. Obviously, he already was and is. But your background is mostly painting. Um, and it was really amazing to watch Mark learn screen printing from scratch and really take off with it. And he very ambitiously took on these multicolor, like really, fine dot resolution screen prints right away, and even printing it on the handmade paper, which is an extra challenge, and large scale. So Mark went all the way right away, and it's really amazing the work that he did, and very creative too with the installations. Um, Mark, you did well. Your experience is unique. We get a lot of questions about the timeline, and how long does this take? How much time do I have? And I always answer that it comes down to the budget, because we're allowing funds for travel. Um, we unfortunately don't have a place to sleep at Frontline Arts. Mike, I had a terrible idea that since we have a shed now, I'm like, we should call it the Frontline Arts Shedsidency. No, we're not going to say anything.
The problem is we don't have a shower,
I
unfortunately.
know.
We would let you sleep in the
We
studio.
have an emergency shower.
It,
Oh, come on, everybody knows how to make do.
it's plausible now.
It's happened. But anyway, so the Monson thing is, it's like completely different. It's this whole other residency. They give you the $1,000 stipend, they put you up, they feed you. For us, we give you the money to use, or we put it towards your account if it's just something like internal. So you get to choose what you do with it. But Mark had a unique way, since he does live nearby. He was able to learn screen printing and get a handle on things for the first several months. Mark, you started around, like, was it June?
Yeah. So it was a little bit later, I think, because we were still coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
There was just a little bit of traction getting started. But once I got a chance, I don't know how many sessions I had with Mike. I think I was screen printing on my own after about the second layer.
It was probably collectively like maybe half a week's worth of us working together and going over different things, and like a 20 hours, 30 hours, something like that. It wasn't insane by any stretch.
Yeah, and so then from that point, I was really focused. I think I did a couple things unique with my experience because I'm close. I utilized portion of the budget for what's called a key holder status, which allowed me 24-hour access as long as I let Mike know about when I needed to be there. I could just go in, schedule time, and go in whenever, which once I got independent with the screen printing, really gave me an opportunity to really crank out some additions. And then I also utilized it to get, I think one of the things is I got the Photoshop, because Photoshop was important to be able to start creating my own separations without having to have Mike's assistance. So we got a year's subscription for me to Adobe Photoshop. So yeah, there's a lot of flexibility in terms of how you utilize it. And what I can also say is, at least from my experience, it was important to have a decent budget so that Mike and Rachel and those could identify what your specific plan was, but it wasn't like I was totally locked in. Like if there was something that I needed to alter or adjust, there was that flexibility as long as it stayed within what I had originally had proposed to do. That I assume is still the case, right, Mike?
Yep, we're totally willing to be flexible as long as it's within the scope of the project. It might not be the original plan necessarily, but we're as long as it fits in with your residency, as Rachel mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and Mike keeps like a running credit kind of tally. So it's like at the end of the day, you're just using your balance. We understand you might have to change the price and the number of things. Yes, please ask questions, Aaron.
Hey, Mike. So, what's like during the day, like our normal day? Is there how many people are in the studio? Or
Our studio is pretty quiet. We have what I like to call the frequent flyers. We have some consistent people who come in on. We have a retired gentleman who loves to spend every Monday in our studio. His name is Len. So if you come in on a Monday, you'll get to hang out with Len, who's great. You can't have a bad time with him. The rest of the week, between Tuesday and Friday, there's always one or two, at least, sometimes three or four staff in the building. We have random people coming in, but we're never so busy that you can't get something done. And with your residency, you'll obviously take priority. If your project is a proposed week specifically, you're going to get priority for the studio that entire week. I'm not going to schedule someone on top of you and take away equipment or anything like that.
well, and then you as the tech, would you be open to like I do these? They're screen printed ceramics, but instead of using ink, just screen print onto newsprint.
Okay.
But I've only, I mean, this is like a pandemic basement, janky DIY. I don't have any real training on it, and I just hand paint them now. I screen the black and then hand paint underglazes. But it'd be nice to be able to do some like red, white, and blue, color separation.
Yeah, definitely. If you're printing on newsprint, that's our studio isn't really set up for like apparel printing. It's a non-toxic shop, so it's all acrylic ink and no plastisol, and we have no real equipment for printing like t-shirts. But if you're printing on newsprint, that's definitely something we can do. What kind of are you printing? Glaze?
It's underglaze. It's just it's colored clay, but it's non-toxic, water-based.
Okay. Yeah, then I don't see why we couldn't do that in the studio unless.
And then I've been decorating we have a laser engraver here, and so I just laser engrave into blocks of wood, but it's just it's the same. Like I've made some with like fruit wood, and some's just like garbage particle board, but it's black. It's on or off, right? So it's like bitmapped. It's all bitmapped, but you have presses we could run some of those stamps through, you think?
We have two big old Charles brands. We have a 30 by 50 and a 36 by 60.
The stamps are about 2 by 2.
Okay, then we'll probably use one of the smaller ones. But we can print. We have two presses that you can easily print full size sheets of paper on, 22 by 30. We also have a Vandercook Universal one. So if you want to print anything letterpress, if you have any interest in setting type, we have a good amount of wood type, a little bit of lead type. We're equipped for polymer plates, so you can do digital things, make polymer plates with us, print letterpress. Where the print stuff is pretty interesting, and if there's a technique that you could apply to your process, you might be able to letterpress type. And I don't know if we could put underglaze on the press. All right, I scratched that idea.
I wouldn't want to do that, but I have all these. It was a guy was telling me that the Japanese used to do end block. They'd use fruit wood. So I take like a piece of like hardwood, and then cut it up and glue it together to make like a block, and then laser engrave into that. So it's end grain like hardwood.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I've only used it on. I mean, that's the joke, right? Is like I'm an old school printmaker. You newbies with your fancy paper, but it used to be, cuneiform was all on clay, right? So I'm an old school printmaker. But anyway,
we have some old school equipment. We can definitely print it. Just no litho. As Mark said, no litho. We don't have a litho press.
Well, we can do some litho plates, but yeah, Mike is I feel like Mike has pushed the bounds with he has a personal laser cutting machine. I don't know if it's working, but he's done some really wild, like small half-tone dot relief prints.
The majority of my personal practice for years was laser prints from like 2012 to like 2017. That's like all I was doing. So we could definitely do something.
Great.
Yeah. He'll be good advice. Also, Aaron, I'm pretty sure you know Mia Salazar.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like down the road, and she's been working with another art center, the Center for Contemporary Art, which is 10 minutes from us. And they do have a full ceramic studio and kiln setup. I can't guarantee anything like with our residency, but I'm sure somebody would hang out with you for a bit. And
Yeah. She's
I've been
actually
wanting to do this with them for a while, the playing with the transfers.
she's on a call today, or she's at a meeting with that group today to see if they can get me a residency there. So,
Okay, let's do it. Let's
yeah.
do it.
This sounds like a really great opportunity. It's super exciting. I hope it works out.
Yeah, totally. And did you have questions about like paper clay or anything about that?
I mean, it sounds like with the budget and the time that screen printing and block printing will be plenty
Yeah.
new stuff.
Yeah, we did that. We did that with Mia during lockdown. Ron Erickson, who's our marine program manager, he figured out the recipe for it, and we did work with her with making little armatures and dolls called Las Meninas, and so they were able to like dry our paper pulp in sculpture form. But then we've had a German artist just talk to us about actually firing the paper clay too.
I guess that would be a question too, like if we could mix in some clay to the paper pulp, because I've seen some artists. We did it here too. Just mix the pulp in with the clay, and then I don't know, a screen on that, maybe even like it. Anyway, that'd be a lot of stuff to play with.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that would be totally okay too. Like I said, we don't personally have kilns, we don't have a drying room, but hey, they do down the road if you got friends over there.
Len does.
We're friends with them too. But yeah, as long as no clay goes like in the beater, it'd have to be mixed in the bucket after.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm still at work, so thanks for your time, everybody. I'm gonna bounce.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Nice to
Hope we
speak
cross
with you.
paths.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Have a good one, Aaron.
I can stay on as long as you need me to, Rachel. It looks like you had somebody jump in late here.
Sure. Are you able to unmute? Did you have any questions, Ramona? If
Sorry, sorry, I'm kind of sick with COVID right now.
No!
Sorry, I actually just found out about it today, so I don't know anything about the program at all. So sorry for being late.
That's all right. Luckily, we have been, and sorry I didn't get a chance to ask. I know you're off camera, but we have been recording this session so far, so we can absolutely send it to you. So you can catch up on everything. And are you okay that this is being recorded right now?
Sure, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. Cool. So we went through the whole application form on our website, and we have Mark in the call with us, who actually was our first resident this past year with the program, and he got the Monson Arts residency as well. So real quickly, it's a budget of up to $4,000, and we have a application to fill out on our website, which I'll actually put that link in the chat as well. So this is where you're going to go to fill everything out. It's due February 1st, and if you live at a distance, you are allowed to use some of the funds for travel or related needs with housing or childcare. So we do not have a place to stay at Frontline Arts in New Jersey. So we just have the facilities for the residency part. So part of that $4,000 would be used by you to find a place to stay if need be. And then the other part is the Monson residency in Maine, which is optional, but you would be awarded with that if you get our residency, and they do put you up. And I think they're all 2 to 4 weeks. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, the bulk majority of them is 4 weeks. There are a few 2-week sessions, and I think you have to kind of look at what they have them listed as. But yeah, it's 2 to 4 weeks, predominantly 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's one residency, but there's an optional second residency, and they're both very different. We have printmaking and papermaking facilities, and part of this comes out of our program that we've had for 11 years. We have veterans come every single Sunday. They make paper out of uniforms. Doesn't have to be your own uniform, but we have tons of donated uniforms as well. They make prints on them, and writing, or just make the paper for itself, bookbinding even. So we have all the facilities for that. We have a community. And then Monson Arts has everything but printmaking. So it was more of kind of, I wanted to get to this earlier, Mark, but you did sort of an interesting thing where you got to learn new printmaking techniques with us for several months. And then you were able to kind of go to a hideaway up in Maine in October and sort of like let that congeal in a quiet studio space. Because that's the other thing, like, since we don't have a place to stay, we also don't have just like your whole own private area. It's a communal studio, but Mike answered earlier, we don't have like an insane amount of people in the building, and if we have advance notice, we could like totally block a week off for you. But yeah, Mark, you were able to kind of marinate on everything at your Monson escape, and then kind of come back and put it all together for the last couple months of the year.
Yeah, it worked out really well for me because I integrated the practices of what I was doing both at Frontline Arts, and then was able to take a lot of those practices, the things that I had been doing in printmaking, and either scale it up into painting or drawing, or there was another printmaking / painting combination piece that I did up there as well, that I know Mike really enjoyed so.
I was muted, sorry. I can share that page again. So that's the other thing that's in the chat is we have, Mark was awesome enough to also have on his own art website a kind of summary of both of the residencies. So the page that's in the chat is this one. It's what he did at Frontline Arts, and which is the large scale screen prints, and some of it on his own Coast Guard handmade paper at 30 by 40 sheets, which they made in the parking lot. And actually they're famous now because the National Endowment of the Arts has been using that picture to advertise their new grant this year all over the US. So you never know what's gonna happen. You might get famous. And then this is the other page. He has pictures from the Monson residency. Sorry, this always takes a minute to load. So yeah, you can see his awesome studio space that he got. He also, oh yeah, that's right. You did a live stream with us during Monson's open house event. So there was some cool sharing with the public and publicity in that way.
Yeah, it was a good marriage of things because I was able to, the other way I utilized it is I was able to take a lot of what I did at Frontline, and because the way the studio space is set up at Monson, or at least the one they provided me, it was very much capable of being set up in a gallery setting during my open studio time. So it also allowed me to document my entire process, both from Frontline Arts, residency, and Monson. So I came away from both residencies with this really well-rounded, well-documented series, I guess you could say, to add to my resume. So it is a perfect marriage of, if you utilize both to their fullest extent, it really is a perfect marriage of opportunity.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you for sharing. So yeah, I know that was kind of a quick breeze over of some things. Like I said, we will certainly send out the recording to everybody who signed up, but and we're gonna wrap up soon since we started at 6:30. But yeah, Ramona, if you since we're all here, if you have any questions at all, I know you said you're kind of starting from scratch, and sorry you've got the Rona. But if you have anything you want to ask, just shoot.
Sure. I was just wondering, is there an expectation that you'll either have to share your work or teach a class or do a public exhibition during your residency?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do have a section on the form that mentions that. We ask a question about, like, how do you think, you'll engage with the community? And, we don't have anything like set hard and fast, but like whatever, works and is beneficial for everyone, we would definitely love to happen. So like Mark has done several talks, like he's with us in this live stream right now. I think it's a really great opportunity for you as the veteran artist resident to share your work. So even if it's just a live stream like this, or there could be like a little pop-up, or if you wanted to teach or demo anything. I mean, again, we don't have like super stringent rules about that, but we think it would be cool and beneficial for everybody if at some point you do something to share your work, but you don't have to be, you can certainly have quiet, uninterrupted time for a good part of the residency.
Okay, sure. I know some other residencies it's expected or required, so that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know some also have like a timeline, it's like at the end you have to do X. Mark, was it also kind of optional with that at Monson? Was there like an optional sharing?
So Monson, the only expectation, which it really was, you'll be up, if you go to Monson, you'll be up there with a wide range of different artists, including writers. So the only expectation at Monson, you really provided, quite just as you are Frontline, a lot of freedom to do whatever you want to do, is there is a weekly kind of critique or whatever with the entire group that's up there, which for myself and for the other primary visual artists that was up there had no issue with it, because we were all very, typically most of us as visual artists or tend to be comfortable, at least in some have critique setting amongst peers. But the writers up there did not seem to enjoy the critique session. But it was definitely an odd group, because I'm told that was really much the outlier. So my point is the only real expectation is when you're at Monson, you're expected, I believe it's on a Tuesday, everybody just goes around and just sees, and you don't even have to really, it's not like a super like harsh critique. It's just sort of an opportunity for everybody to see what everybody's doing once a week. And then the only other expectation is at the end, there is an open studio where your studio space is opened up to the public for them to come and view what you've been doing. Because if you do partake in the Monson portion of it, it is very much a close-knit community, and they have a close, they put a lot of effort into taking care of you while you're up there. So they kind of enjoy the opportunity to come and see what you've been doing, but you're left alone the entire time from the public. It's just that one opportunity where they come, and you don't have to set it up. I had mine specifically set up for my open studio kind of in a very display oriented fashion, but there were other artists who it's just sort of like, this is my workspace, and this is the one drawing that I'm working on, and that maybe that's all they show. But I mean, it can be as informal as that, or it can be more formal. Hope that answers your question.
Sure, it does. Thank you so much.
You're muted.
I keep muting myself to be like really awesome about not having the echo, and then I forget that I've done it. Okay. So what I was gesticulating was, if there are no further questions, then I think we will wrap up this call. But like I said, we will be sure to send out the recording so you can catch up on all of it. And I guess the most important thing is like the proposal of exactly what you want to do in the budget part. You know, might be some of the trickiest. You know, don't wait till the 11th hour. I know this is due February 1st, but if you have any questions about, you know, what something might cost if we don't have it as a sample line on the budget or anything at all, just please ask us. I guess for that, it would be best to email Mike. It's mike@frontlinearts.org. I'll put that in the chat. And then there's also myself. I am Rachel, the executive director. Mike's the studio director. So those are some email addresses you can reach. Again, this contact information is also on the form. So yeah, any questions? So you can have the best application possible, and hopefully we'll see you.
You might want to share my website in that chat. Just
I think I did.
Did you?
I think I did earlier. Yes. If you go up to at 6:54 p.m., I have Mark's residency website in the chat as well, so you can check out. He has a lot of videos too. We weren't able to share that in the screen share, but he really documented everything pretty well, so you can get an idea of both residency spaces. So cool. Thank you so much for sharing with us tonight, Mark, and thanks everyone for coming to check out the residency and see what it's all about. So have a good night, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.